Hello, everybody. Hello from Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm really hoping that y'all can hear me. It is 2 a.m. in the morning, and I tried to find a place that had decent lighting, uh, and it wasn't too noisy because this place is actually very noisy for the time of day it is. Whoa. Let's see if I can put this up here. So if I'm just talking and y'all are not hearing any words, let me know. Or maybe that's not a good idea. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do it without the light. Okay. So I think my current activity kind of prompted tonight's conversation about traveling as an introvert. If you see me look down, that's because this is my cell phone and my laptop is down here. All right. So nobody's telling me like, oh girl, we can't hear you. So I assume that means y'all can hear me. All right. Excellent. As I was saying, it is 2 a.m. here in South Africa, and my current experience kind of prompted tonight's conversation about traveling as an introvert. For those of you who are new here, you may not know that I, Adelia Vorashade of Picky Girl Travels the World, am an introverted introvert. I am everything you think an introvert is. I am somebody who needs the alone time to recharge. I am a person of few words. I don't talk to people I don't know. And so traveling, that may, if you are introverted, that may create some issues, some concerns for you. So that's what I thought we would talk about tonight. So, okay. So if you are new here, as I mentioned, hello, I'm Adelia. Welcome to the Picky Girl Nation. On this channel, we share and talk about travel, something that I do a lot, hence the name Picky Girl Travels the World. We talk about living abroad, something else I do. Not January. July will make 8 months. No, 8 years. Forgive me, y'all. It is 2 a.m. and my brain is not fully functioning. July will make 8 years that I have been living outside of the US. I call Mexico City home. And on this channel, we also talk about the money of it all. I am really, really into helping people like you live the life that they want. And in order to do that, making sure you understand your money, making sure you have a good grasp of your money and control of your money as opposed to your money controlling you, all of those things come into play. So if those sound like topics of which you are really interested, you have found your people. Welcome to the Picky Girl Nation. It is a great idea for you to hit the subscribe button or to like this video. That lets the people at YouTube know you want more of this content, and we'll keep showing you videos like mine. So welcome. All right. I see as I glance down at the chat, my people are here. The introverts are here. And I figured y'all would be. I figured y'all would be. All right. So I am currently traveling as part of a group. This is the largest group I have ever been anywhere with. There are more than 140 people on this trip. I do not enjoy crowds. I do not enjoy large numbers of people, which might make you think, well, girl, Adelia, why are you on that trip? Because I'm also in a season of my life where I do not want to plan anything. I would rather somebody else plan stuff and I just have to show up. So this is my compromise as far as that is concerned. Yes, I am. I see Malika's question here. Are you on Kina's group trip? I am. This is my first trip with her. A lot of the folks here are repeat travelers. This is my first one because group travel is not my jam, and absolutely not a group this size. And that's not saying that things haven't been great and fabulous. It's just it's a lot of people, and my fellow introverts, y'all know that people be peopling, and sometimes there just be too many of them. I didn't realize there were that many. I didn't know we were close to 100. I thought that's what the cap was, but no, it's actually more than that. And it is moving like a well-oiled machine, for which I am thankful. But yeah, this is a little outside of my comfort zone. And so I thought we would start um, kind of talking about the conundrum that those of us who are introverts who want to travel find ourselves, because on the one hand, you know, we don't be peopling the way extroverts do. Extroverts get their energy from social interactions, and for them, the more people, the better. And so putting themselves in a situation where there are going to be lots of interactions with lots of different people, introverts eat that shit up. That sounds like a nightmare to me. So if you are introverted and you want to travel, what are your options? You could, like have a travel buddy. Like, I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't travel with just anybody. Back back when I used to date, one of the first things I would be open to is let's go on a little trip somewhere, because if I can't travel with you, I sure as hell can't date you. And so a lot of introverts have like their travel buddy. They have this person that they travel with. But let's say that person got a regular job, a regular 9 to 5, and they can't just jump up whenever you want to go somewhere. Um, like my best friend was supposed to come on this trip. We were going to celebrate our birthdays, but like her job, and this is not the first time, her job was an issue. So it is your travel buddy isn't available. And so you want to go, but they can't, but you're an introvert. All right. So how do you handle that? Do you travel solo? Because you're an introvert, you like alone time. That sounds great. But also, there's nothing that will make people talk to you more than be traveling by yourself. And so that could create some anxiety for the introverts. The other option is to kind of do what I'm doing on this trip, which is going solo on a group trip. So either just traveling solo by yourself, or if that is too anxiety producing, traveling solo as part of a group. Either way, keeping you from having to sit things out because you don't fool with everybody, but you also want to travel. Let's see. Okay. All right. Malika says, I'm a solo traveler at heart, but I've considered a group trip to a few countries that intimidate me. For instance, India, Brazil. Y'all know, I am an advocate of solo travel, so much so I actually have a Facebook group, Picky Girls Travel Solo. But I'm with you on that. I think India that's really, as a solo traveler who is a woman and who is a Black woman, I think India is like the ultimate test. And I don't know if part of the reason you're traveling someplace is because you want to chill and relax. I don't know if that's even going to be possible. So I agree with you there that like India is a place I don't think I would ever solo travel. I've mentioned here on this channel that um, to go to India, I really want to be able to fly in, see the one thing I want to see that day, and fly out the same night. I did a little research to that effect, and it looks like airlines that I am willing to fly on that travel to India, they don't have multiple flights in the same day. They don't even have like I fly on Tuesday, I can fly out on Wednesday. It's like multiple days in between. And I'm like, this is throwing a wrench in my plan. So I don't know that that's ever going to happen for me. All right, the introverts are in here. I love it. My people are here. Just got done talking to my sister who could not understand why I do not want to stay in the house with her and people I don't know. They don't get it. This is something I have learned in like the last 9 years. Once I had language and understood myself to be an introvert, because previously everybody just thought, oh, Adelia is weird. Adelia is funny acting. And what I've noticed about people who are more extroverted is they cannot wrap their heads around how we feel. The idea that you wouldn't want to be in this room full of all these new and different people, they cannot fathom how horrible that sounds. And so sometimes trying to talk to extroverts, it's a losing proposition because I feel like they're not good at seeing the world from the way other people look at it. Okay. I'm just looking through the comments really quickly. Okay, so we got an extrovert here. I'm an extremely picky extrovert who will not travel with just anyone. Traveling alone is a blessing. So yeah, that's probably like the number one tip. If you are introverted or picky extrovert, traveling solo will eliminate a lot of the headache for you. I don't believe that introverts, because a lot of people who really don't dig solo travel will be like, but what about, like getting lonely and not having anybody to share this with or talk to? And I'm like, see, you don't get it. Because as an introvert, I don't look, something doesn't happen and I don't look over and instantly think, man, I wish I had a person to talk to right now. Like I will take pictures, I will send texts or whatever to my friends and be like, oh, this cool thing happened. Look what I saw. But I don't feel a loss because there's not another person there. So yeah, I think a lot of us have this, we've been called loners or we've kind of seen ourselves that way. So this idea that traveling alone will be lonely for us, I don't think is universal for introverts. Okay. All right. So that's not kind of the conundrum I was talking about. Either you travel solo or you go alone in a group. That traveling solo, I have in my notes here, like talk about the pros and the cons. For real, I think there are far more pros than there are cons because the greatest thing about traveling on your own is you get to do or not do whatever you want, whenever you want. And to me, traveling solo is like the ultimate freedom. And, if I wasn't at a place in my life where I was a little over trying to do research and figure out things, I probably would have come to South Africa on my own and not as part of a group. What are the downsides to solo travel? I don't know. And y'all can let me know what you think in the chat, those of you who are watching this live. If you're watching this from the future, hello, thank you, I appreciate you. But those of you who are who are here right now, you can let me know. But I was going to say, I think I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh, we were talking about negatives of solo travel. I don't think that solo travel in itself, I don't think that there are negatives other than stuff like, you're at a restaurant or you're at the beach and you want to go to the bathroom. There's nobody to watch your stuff for you. So you've got to think more strategically. Like when I'm going to a coffee shop, I'm going to a restaurant. After I like pop in my head and like, oh, okay, I'm gonna sit over there. I go to the restroom first so I can take all my stuff with me. But most of what I would classify as the negative things, like tour operators not wanting to book things for solo travelers, that's more of a them problem than an us problem. More about they're just thinking about the economics of things and they're not thinking about like who people are as travelers. But inherently negative or a drawback of solo travel itself, I'm hard pressed. Okay, you know what? You're right. It does cost more sometimes to travel alone because like you go someplace and you're staying in a really nice hotel. You don't have somebody to split that cost with. A lot of the cost structures are like if you buy a package deal, those are put together based on double occupancy. And so if you're going by yourself, there might be a single supplement where you have to pay more, um, you know, things like that. I'm looking through the comments to see. Yeah, so there's the primarily the drawbacks are, you know, from the financial side more, I think, than anything else. Uh, okay, all right. So we talked about kind of the sticky situation that introverts find themselves in, having to decide, either I'm just going to go on my own. And again, I think solo travel is great. I think the pros far outweigh the cons, but I know there are some people who are introverts that they would like to go with somebody. But again, I don't believe in waiting on doing the things that I enjoy, doing the things that make me happy. So having to wait on somebody because their work schedule doesn't line up with mine, that's a hard one for me. But we've already established I'm a little different. Okay, so you want to travel. That's one way. Solo travel, solo on a group experience. This trip here to South Africa is the third, I think this is the third official like group travel experience I've done. When I went to Ghana, I did a group experience there. I think it was a group of like 18 or 24 women. And one, I didn't want to have to plan because logistics of planning things in sub-Saharan Africa, well, hell, all of Africa, because I'm not gonna lie, I've been to Egypt, I've been to Morocco twice. It's not really much better there. So we're gonna lump all of Africa together. Trying to do that, it doesn't work quite the way that I'm used to working. And that's more hassle than I want to deal with. So that's one reason I opted for a group experience when I went to Ghana. And the other is like the logistics piece. And also this particular trip was offering an experience I didn't know how to book myself. I learned to make wax print fabric when I went to Ghana. As some of y'all know, it's very appealing to me, and I didn't know how to like make those connections on my own. So I went in group experience. That was in 2018. I didn't travel with another group until 2023. November when I went to Argentina, which I ain't really talk about on this channel, and that's no shade against Argentina. I just didn't feel like it. Um, and that trip, Argentina is a location that I was not like interested in enough that I was ever going to make the effort to plan a trip there. So when Nomadness Travel Tribe published that they were going to Argentina, I was like, let me look into this. The price was right, and so I went on it. And so this trip to South Africa, this is only really the third time. No, I'm lying. I take that back, y'all, because when I went to Cuba and I went to El Salvador, see, I don't even count those as really group experiences, but they were. I went with Reroute Travel run by Dr. Kiona. The groups were significantly smaller, like less than 10 people. And I'd already been to Cuba and done it myself before. Again, there's a theme here for me is logistics. Cuba is a very difficult place logistically. So if I could leave that up to somebody else, I absolutely would. And El Salvador, I don't know. It was a place I had never considered going before. She offered a trip and I was like, okay, this works out. But I've been to more than 50 countries. And so what are we talking about? Out of all of the trips I've taken, a total of 5 have been group trips. Oh wow. We were talking about the higher costs we pay as solo travelers. Alaskan cruise price doubled when I put in one person. I know that there was one cruise line that was doing like solo traveler cabins. Was it NCL? I don't know. Don't give me the line, but I know there was one cruise company in particular that was trying to court the solo travel, but again, most of them don't really they don't be thinking about us. Okay. Okay. So, but this is the point I was going to make. Okay, so we've talked about the question of go solo or go with a group. That's fine. But the idea of traveling with a group, if you're really introverted, that can bring up some other kind of like not so great feelings in and of itself. Something that you could do to mitigate, like if you're going to travel in a group setting as an introvert, I have this further down on my list, but let's get into this now. This is kind of like survival 101 for introverts. I think what's going to shape your experience and keep you from being miserable is to set some boundaries, to figure out how, like, okay, I host a retreat in El Salvador and Mexico, as a matter of fact. And some of the folks that think about coming on our retreat are concerned about traveling as an introvert because a retreat is a little bit more of an intimate setting, definitely more of an intimate setting than this trip I'm on now, where there are more than 140 people. And so I know me as an introverted introvert, that is a bit of a concern. Like, I got to spend a lot of time with people I don't know. Like, hold on, how is that going to work? And I think whether it's something intimate like a retreat, whether it's something like the trip I did to El Salvador or to Cuba, where there were like 8, 9, 10 people, or if it's a trip like this, is to figure out like, what are my boundaries? How am I comfortable showing up? I saw something before I went live on IG about it seems like being an introvert is mostly about working up the nerve to pretend to be an extrovert until you can get home and be an introvert. And I think that is 100% spot on. For so much of our lives, those of us who are introverts have been told that low key, there's something wrong with being introverted. Like that's not quote unquote normal. And we should really strive to be more like extroverts. When you think about the behaviors and the habits that are often praised or looked at as dynamic, or, like this is how you should, what you should aspire to be, they're the traits of extroverts. As somebody said, nobody ever tells extroverts to say less or be quiet. It's always to the introverts, you should speak up more. You should be more outgoing. But nobody ever tells the extroverts to settle down and chill. So I think from the beginning, we are conditioned to think like that's how we're supposed to be. And if you are an introvert and thrust into a group setting with people you don't know, people who are not like in your safety circle, people you aren't super comfortable with, that can be exhausting. And we feel compelled to try and like be like the normies, be like the extroverts. And I say, no. I say this is where you need to set boundaries. You need to decide that you are comfortable being how you are and let other people adjust to that. So if for you, you don't want to talk to somebody, you don't want to talk to people before 10 a.m. If you feel like here we are at this event, like lunchtime, okay, this is something introverts deal with at school, at work, on trips. It's lunchtime. Okay, so now I got to figure out who I'm going to sit with and what's the conversation going to be and all that. If you have peopled enough and you are like, I would really like some space, you can set the boundary that I can be with y'all on the tour or what have you, but at lunch I need to go by myself. And that's me time. Set that boundary. It's okay. You have to take care of you. You have to advocate for you. So when I say set the boundary, you have to figure out what is going to make you comfortable in this group travel environment and then proceed that way. That also may mean that you have to carve out so much downtime in a given day, whether that is in your hotel room, whether that is choosing, like depending on the group experience are on, there may be like planned group activities for part of the day, and then there may be pockets of the day that you get to be by yourself. And honoring that need to be alone, honoring that need to decompress, to de-people, and being okay with it, that you don't have to try and show up like the extroverts do. Girl, don't I know it? And this is what I mean by the boundary. Then we're called antisocial. I I lead with the introversion. I say straight up, hey, because they're like, oh, Adelia, come sit down and with us or whatever. Hey, y'all, I have peopled enough for right now. My social battery is in the negative. I will talk to y'all later. I have embraced my inversion, and I I don't, I no longer treat it like something I can't talk about, that I've got to kind of like downplay so I can be like everybody else. So if I'm telling you that, and then you want to act like and label me antisocial, I was right about you about not wanting to spend my time with you anyway. But yeah, you are right. Because the norm is these super outgoing people. So if we deviate from that, we are seen as antisocial. And I will correct somebody with the quickness and be like, no, baby, I'm selectively social. I don't socialize with anybody. I think I put some on my IG yesterday that like I don't be talking to everybody. So if I talk to you and you're not a dog, congratulations. Like you should feel honored that I want to be in your presence because I don't fool with everybody, you know? So yeah, that's what I mean about setting those boundaries. Because here's the thing: you're paying the money to do this traveling. There's no sense in you paying that money and being miserable just so you can make other people feel good. Because a lot of the slack that we catch from introvert, it's about we're making them feel uncomfortable. It's not necessarily an issue about what we're doing for ourselves. Because again, let's say I've have I had a situation where I had a super extroverted roommate in one of these group trip things, and that's something we haven't talked about. Um, if you're an introvert and you choose to go on a group experience, whether it's because of like a country where safety, like as a solo woman, you don't want to go, or like me, you don't want to deal with logistics, you know, you can always opt if there are single rooms, but like we said, you're going to pay more for that. You can opt to do that. Or, you know, like I was going to say, I have gotten a single room twice. Once, just because I was like, I don't have space to deal with new people right now. Like I can deal with you outside, but when I come in my room, I want to be alone. And then another time was a trip for my birthday. And I was like, it's my birthday. Like I'll splurge a little bit more. But if you're in a group environment, you can opt to do the single room, and that may be one way to like kind of set your boundary and let people know, like when it's group time, I can fool with y'all, but when it's alone time, I'm going to my room. Um, I was going to say something else that I have done. Audiobooks have been kind of a lifesaver, um, particularly when there are like group things going and I just can't engage with people. Like I need to be there, but like I'm not really here for the chit chat. Put in my earbuds and I'm listening. They don't know what I'm listening to, but I'm doing that. And that discourages folks from trying to talk to me when I'm not ready to talk to them. Um, I'm looking at the comments right now. Okay, this one right here. They didn't ever want to split up or anything. And I was like, just because this is group trip don't mean we have to be together 24/7. I feel like extroverts be on this tip. And when I'm talking about setting boundaries, like so far, I've not had a roommate that has been like this, because that for an introvert, that's a nightmare situation. Um, I I am okay. Like I'm not gonna chit chat. Even people I adore, I'm not gonna chit chat. We can be in the same room and I can sit there and be completely quiet, looking at my phone, reading my book, whatever it is I'm doing. I am okay with that. Now, if they are not, that is on them. But I've let go of feeling like I have got to pretend for those people. And so when you have that time in the room, and this is the another thing that I wanted to mention, you know, like you figured out what your boundaries are. Like when is it that I want to deal with people? When is it that I don't? But then also communicate that. Hopefully that results in less being called standoffish and antisocial, where you're like, look, I cannot people 100% of the time. You seem lovely, but these are my needs. Communicating that to the people that you interact with, like that's advocating for yourself. That's taking care of yourself. So set your boundaries, but also communicate to people like, I need this space. Like, hey, I'm not being rude. I don't talk a lot. It is what it is. It's not a judgment thing. It's not something I gotta apologize for. I'm just letting you know. So you know, you don't get your feelings hurt. This just how I am. And I know how that sounds, but sometimes that's what it is. That's what it is. Okay. All right. So Dr. K said the ladies I travel with know my favorite response is, "This is how I vacation." Enough said. Exactly. Like, again, I said this already. People have so many expectations about like how, as an introvert, I need to try and be more like them, and I'm done with that. We're not about this life. Astrid asks, any tips for introverts that are traveling or sharing a room? They know I'll need space, but I don't think I have the words. Use use the words that you have. With my current roommate, this is somebody I didn't know her. Um, like I'm thinking about the person I was a roommate with in Ghana. I did not know her ahead of time. She turned out to be like an incredible person with an incredible story. Our birthdays turned out to be a few days apart. Um, I My suggestion is show up authentically yourself. Like just be the you that you need to be. And I really think that things will fall into place. But let's say you get paired up with somebody who just will not stop. You just say, hey, I am an introvert. I don't feel like doing. My preference is um, to be quiet or not to talk, or have this time to myself. Whatever language you have, it's okay. You don't have to say it a certain way. You just have to let people know what you need. And I think that's probably the biggest issue. Again, as women, as Black women, as introverts, the world has expected us to cater to other people in every way imaginable, so that it feels like speaking up for ourselves is somehow infringing on other people, somehow stepping on other people. And that is not the case at all. Like, it's okay for us to say, this is what I need. Okay. Oh, thank you, Tracy. I'm happy. I wondered if anybody else needed this conversation to be talked about. So I am happy that this is serving a need that you had. Very much so. Uh, I'm looking at Carmen, your comment here. Like, again, I didn't get the language to understand that how I am was not a actual a real problem, and that there was a term for it until much, much later in life, like in the last 9 years. And I can remember going to conferences, and of course, what complicated my experience at conferences and different work events is I was the only Black person, and I tended to be younger than the other folks. So, like I was working with a bunch of different things. And I remember a lady commenting to me, and she was like, you really are a woman of few words. And I remember the way she said it was like that was a problem. But I was like, if I got something to say, I'm gonna say it. And if I don't have anything to say, like I wish more people would be like me in that way. Um, and so I would, even in those events back then, would be like dying to get away from those people. So no, I am familiar with this. Um, I agree, Dr. K. Communication is the key. That should be the talk while unpacking. Absolutely. If you are fortunate enough, now for this trip, because my friend was supposed to come and couldn't, and so somebody got her spot, the organizer of the trip was like, hey, y'all could be potentially roommates, connected us on WhatsApp and had us talk about like who we are now. If it's a good trip organizer, they will ask some kinds of questions to get to kind of pair you up, or at least make that a little easier. So we were able to talk about, now I don't think, I'm trying to think, I don't think either of us mentioned introversion or extroversion, but I did, say like, I need my downtime. I although I am somebody who gets up early, I'm not like obnoxious about it, that kind of thing. But you are right. I love this, Dr. K. Like while y'all are getting settled in the room and you talk about like, okay, this is the kind of roommate I am. This is the kind of roommate I am. And if you find that this person is like your nightmare kind of person, you've got a couple of choices. You can either suck it up for the week or whatever y'all are together, or talk to the organizer and see. It doesn't hurt to ask, is there any way that we could swap roommates? Maybe people who hadn't arrived yet, it what's the worst they can say is no. And no ain't gonna kill you. No might irritate you. It might inconvenience you, but it's not gonna kill you. All right. Gimme Love says, I don't do roommates. Okay. If that's a firm place that you are like, the way my introversion works, I cannot do roommates. Then as you are planning your travels, you need to adjust your budget for the single supplement. Maybe if you're considering, either avoid group trips, or if there's a group trip opportunity that it's unique, you don't want to miss out, then you have to make sure that you've got the budget to carry the cost of a single room. As somebody who organizes events, travel through our retreat, Reclaim the Retreat, if you're not familiar, you know, the I've had a couple of folks that were like, I want to pay the double occupancy rate, but I want a single room. No, baby, it don't work like that. If what you need is a single room, you need to make sure you have the budget for a single room. There is no judgment on that, but you just got to make sure that you can afford what it is that you need to make your travel experience better. GMAC, I think a lot of us, it's not until we get older that we realize that that's what we've been doing. We have been trying to come off the way extroverts do, because that's what we're told we're supposed to be aiming for. Before I would just walk away when I'm done peopling. Yeah. And so now I will say the way that I speak about my introversion can maybe, I don't want to say be off-putting to some people, but what I find is that people are not used to other people being frank and straightforward about things. Like I will say to somebody like, I don't know you yet, and I don't really talk to people I don't know. So give me a couple of days, and maybe by then I'll be ready to talk to you. And in our society, we're not used to people who come straight out the gate and set a boundary like that and talk about like, this is how I get down. And I think that's the other half of the communication thing. I'm looking through the comments. This part right here. This part, because an introvert knows, like, why am I going to be running my mouth saying a bunch of nothing? I will open my mouth when I have something to say, and otherwise it's closed. And again, that's the people who take offense to that or see that in a negative light, probably extroverts. And again, they, from my experience thus far, they cannot seem to wrap their head around the way we think, which is unfortunate for them. You know, if extroverts are going to be considered like these great like people, I would think being able to empathize with an introvert would make you even a better people person, you know? And this is absolutely what you should not be doing. This that's kind of the whole point of this video. You should not be miserable trying to make other people comfortable. It is your vacation too. That is absolutely the point behind this whole conversation. And I think we have been expected to be the folks who make ourselves uncomfortable. The introverts are expected to fall in line. And we're done with that. It's 2024. We're done with that. Okay, just getting caught up in the chat. I think I am now. So, you could, we were talking about that, like one of the options is to travel as part of a group and how to make that work if you're an introvert, you know, set your boundaries, communicate. Here's the thing, another thing I want to say about communication. You can say no, and that is a sufficient answer. You don't have to explain your no. You don't have to justify your no. You don't have to provide any additional information if you don't want to. It don't matter how other people feel about that. So they say, hey, we're all going to this restaurant tonight. You can say, no, thank you. And that's the end of the conversation. You don't have to make up an excuse about why you don't want to go. You don't, no. Your no is sufficient. Whether it's something that you don't want to do, someplace you don't want to go, something you don't want to experience, your no is sufficient. We talked about building in alone time. Depending on the group travel experience, you could arrive a few days early from the group, you know, so that depending how your introversion shows up, like if it makes you feel better to like have a good feel for the hotel where y'all are going to be staying or that sort of thing, you might come in a day or two early to get acclimated. It might be, depending on the situation, you might choose not to do all of the activities on the trip. Now, this is more for like just regular travel, not if you are going for a specific program. Like if you're going on a retreat, that retreat has been designed in such a way that, you know, the activities lead to one another and have a purpose, a greater purpose for the experience. But like, I will say one thing that No Madness did very well with the trip I did with them to Argentina. They were like, hey, every one of these activities is optional. They're voluntary. Like nobody has to come. So you could say, you know, y'all are going to the Eva Perón Museum today. I'm going to opt out of that. And the atmosphere on that trip accepted that. Nobody was going to look at you funny because you decided, hey, I need some time on my own. I've had enough of y'all. Nobody was going to look at you funny if you opted out of an event. So that's one way to build in alone time. Or also, you could, just like you can arrive early on a group trip, you could build in some days afterward. Like you peopled hard during the group experience, and now you need 3-4 days just by yourself, not talking to anybody. You can do that as well. One of the I'm trying to find my screen here. One of the other things, I have to sneeze and it won't come out, so I'm sorry about that, y'all. Um, okay, you said something right here. Excuse me, y'all. Okay, you have said something right here. Because on my list, I have like different things, different options we have as introverts. And one of them is going to countries that like cater to introverts or countries that are known, they're culturally known to be introverted. And that is not the US. The US glorifies the extrovert. Superficial chattiness, that is a US thing, and I hate to say it a little bit about my adopted country, but in Mexico, this is a thing too, and this is something I struggle with because I don't want to make small talk in English. I sure as hell don't want to make small talk in Spanish. And so, yes, that is one of the things on my list, and I'm glad you reminded me of that. Okay, so you can pick sort of like introvert friendly destinations or introvert friendly activities. Because I think if you are like planning your own travel, there is the, what do you call it? Sometimes, just like we have these internal expectations that we've picked up from the culture around us about how we're supposed to be, we've also picked up some ideas about what is appropriate for when we go on vacation. What are the kinds of activities we have to do? Like, you're going to Istanbul, you need to do this thing, and this thing. Y'all know I think that's some BS. That's the beauty of being a solo traveler, is you get to do what you want, and what everybody does when they go to this location bears no hold on you, bears no meaning for you, because it's your trip, you can do whatever. So like introvert friendly destinations, if you Google that, number one country that's going to come up is Switzerland. Apparently, the Swiss are known to low-key be introverts. Switzerland is also a little pricey. So as an introverted introvert myself, I still have not been to Switzerland other than a connection in the airport, because I don't have the kind of money or I won't spend the kind of money that's necessary to enjoy myself in Switzerland. But some other places that are like not like the US, where the default expectation is extroversion, Switzerland, Germany. At one point, my youngest was considering going to university in Germany, and she was like, "You would love it. They don't like people either." And I was like, "Maybe you're right." Because she was trying to get me to come there with her. She was like, "These are your people. They don't like people either." So Switzerland, Germany, Sweden, Iceland, Finland. I think you're kind of seeing a theme there. I think like most of those are mountainous kind of countries, and maybe there's some kind of geographic connection between living in that kind of environment that develops a culture where people are like, "Hey, just be quiet and chill by yourself." I don't know. I think, now I cannot speak for all of the country of South Korea, but as an introvert in Seoul, there were no expectations for me, and this may be because I'm a foreigner, I don't know, to be social or to chat people up. Like, people let me mind my own business. I think a place like Lisbon, when I visited Lisbon last year, actually this time last year, one of the things that I remarked in the video was kind of how, like, the Portuguese, they weren't like chatty people. I think if I had had some kind of difficulty and I had asked somebody for help, I think they would have bent over backwards to help me out. But like the superficial chattiness that, like in Mexico, you bump into somebody, we've got to go, oh, buenos dias, buenas tardes. And we've got to do this whole dance back and forth. Oh, drives me nuts. I didn't get that when I was in Lisbon. So again, I can't speak for the rest of Portugal, but in the capital, I felt like that was a place that introverts could travel and have the experience that they wanted. I don't know if there are any other introvert friendly destinations um, that you can think of. All right, so somebody confirms Seoul. They don't feel the need to be super chatty. Like you can, I feel like you could be alone in Seoul and nobody was going to feel like your being alone was a threat to them. That's often how I feel when interacting with extroverts. Um, and I've seen people mention Paris as well. I did not do Paris by myself. And it was also 20 some years ago. So I couldn't speak to that personally, but some people have said that. So there are places, so that's one of the things you could do. You could look for places where culturally introversion is more accepted, more the norm, less of like a big deal. Something else you could do is make sure that you don't engage in anti-introvert activities. So, for example, I do not think cruising is made for introverts. From my experience is that most cruise ships or people who choose to go on cruise want orchestrated fun. They want it's always stuff to do and you're supposed to do all the things. And I think I think that is part of the reason I had such a horrible time on a cruise ship. Now, if any of you that are here are introverts, but you really had a great cruise experience, I would love to hear about that. But I think uh, this calculated fun, like we have all these events and all these things you got to do. I don't think that that is a great environment for introverts. So I would not recommend cruising for introverts. But what I would recommend is to think about what are the things that you enjoy doing and where can you do those things when you travel. I like museums because that's another place we ain't got to chat up because we can just wander around and look at stuff and I ain't got to talk to you. I enjoy hot chocolate and I enjoy pastries. And so as I am considering locations, I am looking for the things that I enjoy doing in those other locations. I think free walking tours, I've done less of this lately because, again, I've been on this kick of not planning my travels. But when I was doing all of the travel, all of the planning, always probably my first activity when I would get to a new place is to take one of those free or pay what you want walking tours. I like them because one, you can book that as a solo person. Two, usually nobody there knows anybody else. So there isn't this expectation of social interaction. You can just go on the tour. You ain't got to talk to nobody. You can just listen and learn, ask the questions you need to ask. I think those are very introvert friendly. And then from there, you can kind of determine if you are looking to like do something later on with someone, this is a way that you can meet other people who are in town at the same time as you. But to me, it's like an introvert friendly way to meet other people. Because if you start the conversation awkwardly, like, hey, what part of the city are y'all staying in? How long are you here? Like, it's acceptable to ask those kinds of questions in that environment. And then you may learn from them, like, hey, we're going to go do this thing, particularly if it's two or three of them and they already have a group and they're doing a thing that you want to do as a solo person, but you can't book it as a solo person. That's your easy entry into that. um, I think cooking classes now. I don't take cooking classes because, one, I don't like to cook, and two, I just want to show up and eat. But if you're somebody who wants to do the thing, or somebody who does enjoy cooking, I think a cooking class is an introvert friendly activity, because either you are making the stuff by yourself and you can just ask questions to the instructor when you need to, or if you have to interact with another person, you're doing it one-on-one, which is much preferred for an introvert than something that's gonna like thrust you into a group of 15 people, you know? So I think that is a good, if you're trying to think, especially if you're new to travel and you don't know, like, what is it that I want to do? Because this is like a whole new world for you. I think those kinds of activities lend themselves to it. I think about some of the stuff that I've booked off of Airbnb experiences. Because again, I think about what are the things I like to do. So like when I went to Italy, to Florence, which is known for its leather, I booked a leather working class because I like to make stuff, and like, not food. I like to make clothes. I like to make bags. I don't want to make food. And so I took that, I took the wax print fabric class, things like that. So I think about, like, what are the things that I enjoy doing, and I try to do those other places. Rhonda, I'm glad you found us. We're out here. Again, the extroverts get the shine because they tend to be the loudest, but we out here. We out here. So, but my family loves cruising. Perfect for extroverts who love to be busy all the time. Yeah, and cruise was a nightmare for me. I think as an introvert, you have to work harder on a cruise to create the experience that you would prefer. That's what I think. Okay. And here's the other thing. Okay, because I told y'all, like, these are the things that I like when I travel. And I think for us as introverts, because of the society that we have grown up in, wanting to do our own thing, wanting to do stuff where we don't talk a whole lot. Of course, this is, people will tell you, like, oh, you're missing out on the experience, blah, blah, blah. Again, it's about being okay with, this is how I want my trip to go. This is being okay with, these are the experiences I want to have. I think as more of us learn to accept who we are, it will get easier for the rest of the world to do it. And that doesn't sound like a big deal. It doesn't sound super complicated, but I think it is, because we've been told from jump, you shouldn't be quiet. You shouldn't be like standoffish by yourself. You need to come over here and be with the group. Ugh, I don't want none of that. I don't want to. Yeah, I like to do this as well, going on a mission to find what makes the local unique. I like to wander, and just kind of like, when I when I do plan trips, I use TripIt as a way to organize all of my travel stuff, but I also use it so that the people at home can keep track of what I'm doing wherever I am in the world. And I will literally put in my TripIt, from this time to this time, wander through the fashion district, wander through the business district, or whatever the neighborhood is, because that's one of the things that I enjoy, is just kind of like stumbling upon interesting places and going to check them out. And so I will actually I will prioritize setting aside time to do those things. Oh, all right, Marissa. Oh my gosh, the number of, it took me a long time to understand why people were always asking me, well, what's wrong? Like, what you mean, what's wrong? I'm just over here breathing, living, with my face being my face. Come join the group. Like, it's a reason I'm not sitting over there with y'all. But folks don't be understanding that. So hopefully this conversation, I know I'm talking to the introverts, but hopefully there are extroverts who are watching this conversation and are learning, like some things about us. And maybe there's like a light going on. There's a loved one in your life, and you're like, that's why they're like that. And maybe now you can move forward with a little bit more empathy for them. I hope we're making a difference out here. Okay. There was a question. How do you feel when traveling solo? Sign up for a group activity and everyone else is paired up. My first thought, because you say like you felt awkward. I have felt awkward my entire life, so it's kind of nothing new. If anything, if everybody on the activity already has somebody, I actually find that a bit of a relief, because I don't have to strike up a conversation with those people. Like, they already got somebody who they expect to chat with them. And if I will very much remain kind of like this extension away from the group, I'm like perfectly okay with that. Now, unless it's something, I'm having a hard time thinking of an example, unless it's something that absolutely requires like a partner, I don't feel a kind of way about it. And if it is something that does require a partner, I have to like get over myself and figure out how to find a partner in this group. But if they're already paired up, I actually see that as a relief, because there's less need for me to interact, or less obligation for me to interact, I should say. Okay, we answered that question. Because, like Francis said, having to entertain and like these expectations of the social interaction, I don't like that. So if they're already paired up, I feel less of that weight on me. Okay. 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 So I love it, because I love it. I don't want nobody to talk to me. Now, there are some people who persist, and I am like, what is wrong with you? Do you not see these things in my ear? Like, that is the universal symbol of do not talk to me. But I'm telling you, extroverts, they walk through the world completely different. It is a marvel, really, how they move through the world. Yeah. Now, all of this that I've said, if you know, if there are Black folks or there are Black women, I do feel the cultural obligation to speak, because y'all know how it is. when we see somebody who looks like us out here traveling. Like, I gotta acknowledge that. Now, I will speak, but I don't expect, like, hey, how you doing? But I'm not trying to be your BFF immediately. But I do succumb to that cultural expectation because, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, so the other thing, oh, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is particularly for the folks who are considering solo travel, and maybe whether it's from a budgetary perspective or, yeah, maybe it's a budgetary perspective or something else. You're not sure what to do about accommodations, because we talked about how uh, traveling solo, in some ways it is more expensive, particularly when it comes to accommodations, because you don't have somebody to share that with. Hostels are often mentioned as a affordable option, and I have stayed in all kind of hostels. Have I had my own? I think I've had my own room in a hostel. I've been in a room where there are 4 beds, all women. I've been in a 4-bedroom mixed dorm. I've been in a 24-bed room mixed bunk space. I have done the whole gamut when it comes to hosteling. But extroverts will always talk about, and hostels are great places to meet people. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not traveling to meet people. If I meet somebody, if I make a genuine connection with another human, that is one thing. But just the exercise of meeting people, that is not why I travel. And so, because that is what is so popularized, I think that oftentimes introverts might be a little gun shy when it comes to hostels. I did it. I did it twice. Once in Amsterdam, and this was my fault. I knew I was going to be in Amsterdam in June. What I did not pay attention to was the fact that it was high season, and I should have started, because I wanted to be in the city center. I wanted to be where the canals were. And high season, expensive, I should have started looking earlier. I didn't. And so the only way on my budget that I could be in the city center was to go stay at a hostel. All right, bet. I look at what's available. A room, I think that room was either 21 or 20 bunks. It was all female. I didn't love the idea. This was the first time I'd stayed in one like that, but I did it. And it was all fine and good until the girl in the bunk across from me, somebody had moved in. Not only did she snore, she also ground her teeth. I can I can deal with snoring. I was married to somebody who snored for 20 years, but grinding teeth, absolutely not. And I don't know what had happened to my earplugs. And I remember at one night, I had to catch myself because, like, when I was married, an old boy would snore, I would just hit him and make him stop. And one night, I remember, like, I almost got up out of my bed to go nudge that girl because I was like, you doing too much. I can't handle this." Um, so, lesson learned: always have earplugs. And then the other time that I stayed in a 24-bed room was in New Zealand. And I'm trying to think of why I made that choice. I I don't know why. And then after that, because that was okay, at least the first one in Amsterdam, it was all women. Okay. The one in New Zealand was mixed, and I was like, nah, fam, we can't ever do this again. So now my limit is about 6. 4 to 6 is my preference when I stay in hostels. So yeah, like, all of my choices don't be winners. But here's the thing, and I'm glad you mentioned this yoga bliss dance. Although the reputation that hostels have is that they're great for socializing. They're great for meeting people. I'm here to tell you, you can introvert as hard as you want at a hostel. I have found being an introvert to be very easy because if I am struck with the mood to want to engage with people, there are plenty of people who want to, but also it's not obligatory. Um, I very much, being a solo traveler in a hostel, sitting in the common area, the bar, whatever, with my headphones on my computer, nobody blinks an eye at that. Sitting in my bunk on my computer, nobody blinks an eye at that. So I have found it to actually be a great environment to introvert in because you don't know them people and you don't have to know those people. But if, let's say, you're running into the problem of, I want to go do this excursion, but they won't book a solo traveler. Being in a hostel, odds are there are going to be a bunch of other solo people too. So you could easily ask, put on the board like, hey, I want to go here on this date. Anybody want to join me? So I find that to be an easy way to connect with other solo travelers, again, in the way that you want to. I did not find the socializing to be obligatory. Now, also, I have never stayed at a party hostel. I've stayed at hostels that have bars, no problem. But I've never stayed at a true party hostel, and so maybe it's a little different there. But yeah, I have found it easy to introvert in a hostel situation. Um, and if you're concerned about age, I have never, I have never ever been close to being the oldest person at a hostel. And I'm about to be 50. There are people well into their 70s, maybe possibly their 80s that stay in hostels. So I actually find them to really be a good place to stay if I just kind of want to be left alone. Now, of course, if my budget if my budget can handle a hotel, you can be really alone at a hotel. But I don't want anybody thinking hostels are like have this forced socializing aspect, and that's why I can't stay there as an introvert. I have not found that to be true at all. I've actually found the opposite to be true. Okay, so what about the bathrooms? This is something else you learn. Um, One thing, this is another reason why I don't do the big rooms anymore, because what's always going to be the case, if there's a 12, 15, 24 bunk room, there's going to be like, 5 or 6 shower stalls, probably something like that. I don't like that bathroom setup. My preference is a hostel that has small rooms, and you would think a bathroom that's just for you and those 3 or 4 people. I only do that if it's a all women's room. Um, if I'm bunking and there are men in there, I don't want to share the bathroom with a man. Not because I'm like, oh no, I'm a woman. No, because men be dirty. Ideally, what I like is kind of a small size hostel that has multiple bathrooms like throughout the building that are on like the main hallway outside of the room, because as Stephanie Perry has mentioned this, those get cleaned on like a regular schedule. When it's a bathroom in your room, those aren't getting cleaned. They're getting cleaned every day, but it's kind of like at a hotel situation, like it'll be later in the day when everybody has left. If I want the option of getting into a bathroom before nobody else has been there, I prefer hostels that have the bathrooms out on the hall, but not like a whole bunch of shower stalls, or you go into the room and there's like 15 sinks. I don't like those kind of bathrooms. So that's when I am looking at a hostel. Those are the things that I am looking for. And pretty much any place I stay, whether it's a hotel or a hostel, if there are, or an Airbnb, if there are not pictures of the bathroom that I can discern what my situation is, I'm not staying there. Everybody has their own thing. That's my thing. I stayed at a hostel in Krakow, Poland. It was really more like kind of like a guest house. I had my own room. I think most of the rooms were single, but there would be bathrooms like set up throughout. Um, and I remember the bed being super, super comfortable. So this idea that like you're gonna be on a mat on the floor or something like that, there are hostels for every taste level and preference. You can't just book anything. You gotta be strategic. Okay. My kind of sweet spot is somewhere between a guest house and a boutique hotel. Um, but that is not always possible because different locations are going to have different things, but that's my sweet spot. Okay, so we talked about that hostels are actually they have this reputation for being super social and meeting people, but I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So I don't want any introvert to be afraid of hosteling for that reason. I think, y'all, I think we did it. I will add a little plug in here that like, okay, mention this. I run retreats with my business partner, Ivana, Reclaim the Retreat, if you didn't know. And like I said earlier, I think retreats are actually a good option if, like, I don't think retreats are something introverts should be afraid of, because if the retreat is structured properly, or at least I believe this, because we do this, we put in alone time. I guess the fact is both she and I are introverts. So anything that we're attached to is going to be sensitive to the needs of introverts. And that is something that I have become like cognizant of as I contemplate group travel experiences. Like, who's the person behind them? Like I mentioned, I went to Cuba and it was my second time in Cuba, my first time in El Salvador, and I went with Dr. Kiona's company, Reroute Travel, because from Instagram, I knew about her and like who she is, what she stands for. And like, I was like, okay, if this is who she is as a person, I think there are certain assumptions I can make about the group travel experience she would put on. I guess all of that is to say, be careful if you are booking group travel experiences from unknown entities. Because I think because of the particular needs of an introvert traveler, I think it's even more important to like not book this thing from this faceless giant organization. But if we're going to consider group travel experiences, looking at things that are smaller in scale, maybe the company behind them being smaller, or where that you have some kind of connection or some way to understand who's the person who put this together. Like, what are they about? What are their values? Is that showing up in this experience? I think that is more important to those of us who are introverts, and makes for a better travel experience for us. Okay. You know what? I think you're right, Dr. K. I think we do need to speak to that because it's us. Like, I know I'm not going to be out here making people uncomfortable in that way. But we've had some folks that were like, "Hey, I'm an introvert," and they're concerned about like having to have a roommate and that sort of thing. And one of the focuses, there's really three. Can you have three cornerstones? I don't know if there's a number, but the three pillars of any Reclaim the Retreat is culture, coaching, and community. And we want to build a space for folks to create community. And I think because we are both introverts, we are more sensitive to how that might look for other introverts. So it's not something that I think about. I'm like, duh, isn't this obvious? But you're right. I think like introverts who may not know us or know me might not, like they may think it's just like any other group experience and not understand that no, we plan with the introvert in mind. So no, I think you're right. I think we are going to add that. I think we are going to add that. All right, y'all. It is almost 3:30 in the morning here. I appreciate y'all joining me live. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it for this. I did have to take a nap. Today, I was at the spa and literally I slept. I slept through one of my massages. I slept through one of my hand treatments. What else did I fall asleep? I fell asleep through a lot of the treatments today because I still had like jet lag. And I don't think, had I not had like an easy day today being at the spa, I don't know that I'd have been here with y'all tonight. I will remind you of this. I have been going live on YouTube on Wednesday nights. I think that has come to an end. I think we're going to move this to Tuesday nights, like tonight. Primarily because I want to not have to work at all on Wednesdays. And so this was the only like work obligation I had on Wednesdays. And there were certain like things I couldn't do, activities I wanted to do that I've not been able to do for the last 3 years, 2 years, whatever it's been. So moving forward, I haven't decided if it's going to be 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern. I don't know. Right now, we're at a time where the U.S. is on daylight savings time and Mexico is not. So somewhere between 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights, that will be our new night for live streams on this channel. Letting everybody know that. So yeah, it is almost 3:30 in the morning and we are leaving here in about 5 hours to go tour the city. And I hope to get some sleep or all of the rest I got on Tuesday, because it's Wednesday for me. All the rest I got at the spa will be for nothing. And I'll be back messed up and jet lagged again. So thank y'all for joining me live for this conversation. If you are watching the replay, I appreciate you as well. Be sure to like the video. I mean, if you want to dislike the video, that's fine. Do you? Subscribe, interact with the video in some way to let YouTube know, like, I want more of this. I want less of this. But if do something active, I would appreciate that greatly. If there is an introvert in your life who would benefit from this conversation, share this video with them. And I will see y'all next Tuesday. I'll still be in South Africa, so it'll be Wednesday morning for me, but I'll see y'all next week. All right, bye.